I've gotten a lot of questions about sourdough, and so I thought I would take you along on this process of shaping and scoring and baking these loaves. So everything I can think of, I'm just talking through, sharing everything I've learned over the last 5 years, and I hope you enjoy. All right, if you have ever encountered this after a long fermentation in the fridge, which is discoloration, it's kind of gotten a little oxidized, and this is hard, as you can hear, it's kind of gross. And that was because my beeswax wrap was not tight, but there's a way to fix it. I'm going to show you what happens when it is airtight. You can see this one's blueberry, and it's nice and soft, and the air hasn't gotten in, and the same with this chocolate chip one. I have this one already out of the bowl, so I thought I'd show you. This is fine, but this one's not. So I'm going to show you how to fix that. And this is before I've shaped them. Put this over. So I'm going to show you the regular loaf, actually, just taking it out of the bowl, what to do. And that is, I like to take it and spread it out just a little. It really doesn't matter. This is really cold. I just pulled it out of the fridge. And all I'm doing is just folding it into a loaf. I'm kind of pulling it and bringing it around. And by the way, this is pecan, raisin, and golden raisin cinnamon bread, and it's amazing. So now what I'm doing is I'm just pulling it into a tight ball and creating surface tension so that it makes a really nice loaf. So this one's good. I'm happy with this. I'm just going to set that aside. I'm going to do the same with my other one. And I have the top, what was on the top of the bowl is now on the bottom because it's great. I want that on top so I don't have all these raisins that are going to burn when they're in the fridge. And I prefer it this way. So once again, it's pretty cold, so it's pretty stiff and a little bit more difficult to create that tension, but that's what I want. And I'm going to set this aside, and then now I'm going to show you what I do for this one. So all I do is I have my bowl scraper here. I just kind of release that, and I'm scraping it out, and you can see the underside is beautiful. And I'm not going to worry about the raisins, all that stuff. What I'm going to do is I'm going to, instead of using the top side, which has some discoloration, I'm going to use this side, and all I do is cut it in half. Okay, and then I'm just going to flip it over, and I'm going to fold the unsightly parts onto the inside. So all I'm doing is pulling, I'm kind of just making a sphere this way. Okay, and then I'm going to start to work it around. And I don't, like I said, I don't like the raisins on the outside, but what I do as they come to the surface of this, then I just kind of tuck them underneath. There we go. And I'm super happy with that. See, then you're gonna, when it goes into the oven, you're gonna have a really beautiful loaf anyway, and this doesn't matter. And if it bothers you, you can literally pull it off like that and just throw it away. But you won't notice it in the final product. So these loaves have been in the oven for, in the fridge for 2 days, long fermenting. And once again, I just grab these and I just shove them under there. Just tuck them under. If it's not the end of the world if you don't do this, they'll just look like a burn victim on top, puffed out, but they're fine. So, and there you go. And I'm going to continue with my other two. I have my chocolate chip. There we go. One more time. And I could do this either way. I could use the top or the bottom side with this, but I want to use on the top because I don't want the chocolates to burn. Once again, I'm just kind of folding it in to itself and creating a loaf. All right, I'm happy with that. Same thing, it's kind of stretching out a little bit. You don't have to do that. Go and see, a lot of these have come to the top, so I'm going to do the same thing that I did with the raisins, and I'm just going to stuff them underneath. And once again, it's fine if you don't do this. They'll be a little crispy, but it'll still be good. All right, I'm gonna set that aside, and then the last is the blueberry, and we'll see how this did. Once again, because it was airtight, I don't have any issues with this. All right, once again, and this is pretty wet. I really want this to stay on the inside. And these are just the dried blueberries from Costco. And actually this is a little lopsided, so I'm just gonna cut some of this off and plop it inside to make it more even. Once again, if you use fresh blueberries instead of dried, it's going to add so much more moisture to the dough and it's going to be soupy. Don't want to do that. And these I just put in boiling water I poured boiling water over the top of them while my loaves were resting and doing their autolyse before I added them. So I'll share that soon. Okay, same thing, I'm just poking those underneath. All right, so another thing I wanted to mention is that now that I have all of these shaped and they're resting, I want them to rest for 20 minutes on the countertop. And the reason I do this is right now it's not sticky, but if were I to put this in my Banneton basket or on a towel in a Banneton basket, it's gonna stick. And that's something that I really struggled with when I first started making artisan loaves. Was they were really ugly. They were delicious, but they were not nice to look at. And what I found out was I was not doing this step. So letting it sit on the counter for 20 minutes creates a really nice skin to where this isn't going to stick to anything. So I'm going to set the timer for 20 minutes, come back, and I'll show you how I put them in the Banneton baskets. All right, we're back. It's been 20 minutes, and now I have everything set up to put my loaves in Bannetons. I actually only own 2 Bannetons, and they're so old and crusty. I need to get new ones. My favorite thing to use are these bowls from Costco. I love the size and the shape that they are and the bread loaves that come from them. And then also I use these 2 ceramic bowls, which work great. So I'm going to show you how to use them. So I have my tea towels, and I like to keep them just folded one time in half. I put it in the middle, and I have 2 right here. I have 2 of these things. I have a rice flour and all-purpose flour, and I was using my sifter so often, I finally just got these off Amazon, so that I think they're called a powdered sugar shaker or something like that. They come with lids, they go on, they're great. So I like to dust them all. Actually, first I'm getting ahead of myself. I like to dust all of them with all-purpose flour. And the reason I do this is to keep them from sticking to anything. Just give these all a dusting, and then I just quickly run over it with my hands to kind of push it in. And while I'm doing that, I give it another shaping, because they've relaxed while they've been sitting here resting as well. Same thing here. All right. If you do not flour your loaf, it's going to stick, guaranteed. I love to use all-purpose flour for this. I like the texture and the contrast it gives. And you don't have to use rice flour, and I'll explain in a minute. And I never used to, and I'll explain why I do. And that is, I like to only use rice flour just right here on the tea towel. And I used to only use all-purpose. The reason I've switched to this is because it really does help cut down on the moisture and the sticking on the towel. And the reason, if you think about it, when you have a bag of rice and you put something that fell in water in it, it's going to absorb the water. Rice absorbs water. So this is a little more gritty than the all-purpose flour, which is why I'm not a huge fan, but because it absorbs moisture so well is why I love to use it. So I'm going to start with the chocolate ones. So I'm just gathering them up like this. Pick it up and the top goes down and I have this open part. And you can get fancy with this, but honestly, it doesn't matter. Once again, I'm just pushing these guys under and I'm pinching it together, kind of like stitching it. And there's lots of different techniques, but I find if I just pinch them together, I do get a better overall loaf. I didn't used to do this either, but it does help it to hold its shape and to stay taut, which is what you want. Okay. And then I'm going to do the other one, same thing. All right, rice flour again. Here's my loaf, top side down. And with this, sometimes with the inclusions, it does get a little tricky, but I'm not worried about it. Nothing's going to happen to it if these don't get tucked in here. And I'm just kind of pulling from the outside and I'm pinching together. So you can see there. And if it comes apart a little bit, it's no big deal. And like this doesn't want to. So another thing you can do is kind of take it and kind of crisscross it and hold it together. So I'm going to pull this next one off. Okay, rice flour again. All right, for these, I'm gonna go ahead and do these ones that don't have as much on top. And the reason is these are nice and clean and white, and especially with the blueberry, it's gonna bleed through on the towels, and I like to use my older ones for that, so they're not everything I own is discolored. Same thing, this is so chock full of inclusions that it's going to be a little bit more difficult. So I'm pulling up over the inclusions like this and pinching that dough over it. All right. This one like this. Okay, I'm going to pick this down. And at this point, you have two choices. You can either let this rest for, I'm trying to grab that. You can let this rest on the counter for anywhere from like 30 minutes to an hour. I used to let it go longer, but I found that it starts to overproof the longer it's sitting at room temperature and in the Banneton. And these have already been in the fridge for 2 days. So I don't want to take it beyond that much longer. If I do, I'm not going to get as much oven spring as I would if I put them in when they're cold. So let me put this here. And now I'm going to my Banneton. It's the same exact thing. I just put my towel over it, and you can forego the towel with the Banneton basket, but you have to prepare it differently, which I can show you at a different time. I grab my other thing, and with this, it's round, so it's a little bit trickier to, got this huge thing here, a little bit trickier to pinch together, but just do your best. It's no big deal if it doesn't stay. Every little bit helps. All right, so option 2 for if you're not wanting to bake these right away, or if you can't, it's getting late at night. I'm probably going to bake anywhere from 2 to 4 of them tonight, and then I'm going to save the rest for later, and I'm going to show you how to do that in a second. Here we go. And this one's the oval one. These are my favorite. I feel like they give such a beautiful shape, and they're really fun to score as well. Like I said, it's super wet, it's super full, and it's not going to hold together too well, but that's fine. All right, and then I have my last two. I'm going to use my slightly older towels, and as you can see, this isn't going to drape well. We'll try it this way. Struggling, and there's something on that. Okay, so rice flour, and then I'm going to scoop up my blueberry loaf, and in it goes. Same thing, I'm going to pinch it together. Trying to kind of tuck those in. All right. And last one, same thing. As long as it's not going to, it's totally fine if it's not hanging way out, as long as it just covers the loaf, which is what you're after. Right. All right, I'm going to rinse my hands off and I'll be right back. All right, now I'm going to show you what to do from here. You have everything in the Banneton baskets, and I think I'm going to bake a raisin pecan, and I'm going to bake a chocolate chip tonight. And then I'm going to set these aside. The rest I'm going to show you how to prepare for the fridge. All right, and all you have to do is wrap them. I'm going to show you with this first here. All you need to do is fold the towel over the top, and then I use one of two things. There's a lot of different options out there. The first one, this is it's called a clean bag from Amazon, and all this is a really thin food safe bag. And you can just slide it in there. And I like to kind of push out the air. I don't worry about getting it all out because it's going to expand in the fridge. So I just take it, tie it off, and this can go directly to the refrigerator shelf. Like I said, the other option is, in a second, same thing. I'm gonna fold it over, and that is, I just started using these. It's a 2-gallon freezer bag, which is very exciting. So as you can see, it's huge. With a 1-gallon bag, you really can't get them in very well, or at all actually. So with this, I can take it, put it in here, and seal it. The reason you want to seal it when going back into the fridge is because the fridge air circulates around and it will dry out your loaves. So if you just have it covered with a cloth, it's not going to do very well. You want to keep the air out of it, and you also want to keep the other flavors of the fridge. Anything else you have in there, you don't want it coming in contact with this and, say, onion getting into your sourdough taste. That would be disgusting. So another option is you could put 2 in one bag because they're so large. I choose not to because it's like a jigsaw puzzle in my fridge at the moment, so I don't want to be trying to fit them in like this. So I'm just going to do them separately. And this is the second time I've used this bag, so you can use them multiple times, I guess, till they wear out. So here we go. Same thing. Just slide it into here. And these can go back in your fridge. They can stay for a few hours until you're ready to get to these loaves to bake. I don't like to leave them out very long if I have multiple loaves to bake because I feel like it just doesn't rise. It's not as good of an end product. But you can keep it in the fridge anywhere from a couple of hours to several days, up to a week if you wanted. And it's not going to hurt anything. You're just going to get all the benefits of a long fermented loaf. And if you even wanted to have one per day and pull one out every day and bake, if you really want fresh baked bread, you can also do that. So then with these, because they're a little bit bigger, they're full on bowls. We can see if we can slide it in there. I'm not even going to try, okay? We're going to go back to this. I also love these bags for freezing whole sourdough loaves. A regular Ziploc bag is not going to hold a full loaf, or at least the full loaves of my sourdough is large, and I don't want, it won't fit in a Ziploc bag. So I will wrap them for the freezer, and then I'll put them in these, and it'll hold whatever size I need. And then I'm going to do the same with this one here. Once again, this is opened a little bit from being stitched shut, and that's totally fine. It doesn't bother me. It's not going to matter. And I'm going to use this again. And another benefit to putting these back in the fridge before you bake them is that when you take them back out and you have them and you put them on your parchment paper and you go to score them, you're going to get a really beautiful crisp score. So if you're struggling with it's just not holding as well as you'd like, you may find that putting it back in the fridge, even for a little while, will give you a really beautiful score and give you an all around better look. We are on the final stretch now, and I'm about to get these ready for the oven. So what I do is I have my parchment paper, then cut that, and I go ahead and just do two at once. And I have my bread ready, and I'm just gonna hold my towel down with my hands, and then I take it and I flip it over on my paper, and I did not hit the bullseye. I'm just gonna scooch that to the middle to make it easier for transporting. As you can see, the rice flour made getting it out of the basket and off the towel super easy. So at this point, you can brush it off with a pastry brush if you want, or I just spread it around, and it's totally fine. And I like to do just a tiny bit more with the all-purpose flour and rub that around. And what that's going to do is it's going to give a really pretty contrast. And once again, I'm going to take this and shove it underneath. And I'm just going to do a really simple score. Another thing I wanted to mention was with the scoring, we have the lame or the lame, whatever you want to call it. I like it. This is what I started out with. The only problem I have with it really is the shape is curved. So unless you're doing a very specific scoring, it's not going to work very well, I don't think, and they go dull pretty fast. So I've basically abandoned this. I don't know, I still have it. And I've gone to an X-Acto knife, which my husband had been telling me for a while I should try one of these. Now it's very sharp. And so I have injured myself a few times with them, so I just have to be careful. But you can see from this, I can really get in there and cut this open. You can see that. And I'm just gonna just do a crisscross here. See? And this is my opening score, so I really want it to spread out well. So I want to make sure that I've gotten fairly deep, not too deep obviously, but just enough to where it's going to bloom in the oven basically and rise. And then I'm just going to do a really simple decorative score there, and I'll set this aside. Round two, same thing. I'm just grabbing this, pulling it out there. And if you feel like it's getting away from you and it's spreading out quite a bit, you can just tuck it back in. This has been sitting over an hour on the counter, and I really want to get it in the oven before it gets any later. And then with this, I'm just going to do a really simple one just down the middle. And I'm going to go back over. See here, if you see where it's not completely separated, I want that to completely open. So, and right here as well, if I don't pay attention to that, I'm not going to get a good oven spring because it's going to struggle to open where I tell it to. And then I'm just going to do some quick scores on the side. And you can see where this is not opened up all the way. You want to lightly go over it again. And this is a shallower decorative score, whereas this is a deeper score that's going to allow it to open where you tell it to, as opposed to breaking open wherever it wants to in the oven. You don't want that. All right, this is ready for our next step. All right, so my Dutch ovens have been preheating for over an hour. Take these off, and then I just pick it up like a sling, drop it right in, and don't touch it. Same with this. Here, I put my gloves back on, put the lids back on, and they go in the oven at 425 for 40 minutes. All right, so I have my oven set to 425 because it's on convection bake and only shows 400, but it's set for 425. And this is a gas oven. My old oven was electric, and I had to bake my loaves at 450. If I do it in this one, it's just too hot and it'll burn the bottom. So this is perfect for me. And then I set the timer for 40 minutes. And we'll come back to take the lids off for an additional 10 minutes of baking time. All right, here we go. The timer went off. And so I'm gonna go ahead and pull the lids off. You can see the bread is already looking great. And then we're gonna go, see that one? We're gonna keep it in here for an additional 10 minutes. And then we'll pull them out. Okay, time's up. They're ready. Go. Loaf number 1 and loaf number 2. And I'm gonna grab my rack. The last thing I wanna do is get these loaves out of here so that they do not burn on the bottom. So I just grab the paper, lift it, and set it on here. Grab this paper, set it on here. The reason I want to get it out of the pan right away is because if it sits, it's going to continue to bake on the bottom, and you're going to have a burnt mess. So there you go. We'll just let those cool. You also don't want to cut into them until they are completely cooled, and preferably until the next day. If you slice into it when it's still hot or warm, it will become very gummy in texture and it won't recover from that. So patience is key here. All right, since I just pulled these out of the oven and the pans are still hot, I'm gonna go ahead and grab 2 more loaves from the fridge and go ahead and get those going, and I'll cook my other 2 loaves tomorrow. All right, here we go, round 2. I'll get this out. Cut our paper. You can also do those, do your loaves on the special silicone rounds with the handles. I actually own a couple that I've never used. I really like the paper. I bake it on the paper and then I store it on the paper, and I can show you how I do that as we go. Same thing, I'm just gonna hold this on, and these are the blueberry. There we go. And see, it stains the towel a little bit, so this is why I use my older ones on the fruit ones specifically. Pull that out. Take this off. This is really hard to reuse, so I don't bother with these. Sorry for those of you this offends. All right, plop that on there. Once again, I want it just a little bit tighter, so I'm just gonna tuck around the edges. And that just kind of gives you a better chance for a larger rise in the oven. Same with this one. And this is a little off center, so I just kind of tucked it that way until it centered. And then I'm just going to spread around this rice flour, and then I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of my all-purpose flour. Right, and then once again, I'm just going to go in with a opening. I'll just go ahead and do the crisscross again so you can kind of see. Oops, let's go this way. If it's tearing, and look, see we're cutting through fruit here, then I'm going to kind of try to pull that out of the way, and it'll be fine. And once again, see where it's not cut all the way. I want to go back through. I want to make sure that I have a nice clean cut. Another little tip I'll actually show you, I just thought of this. I picked up these very sharp tip scissors, actually from just like a resale store, and I was so excited. I think they were $1.99, but they're so sharp. So if you're really wanting to get some lift, but it's not opening like you want, or you're not getting those crisp edges, you can take this and literally clip underneath like that, and that will really give you some extra lift. See how I'm doing that? I'm just getting under there. Same here. And similarly, this is how you can create Christmas trees in the winter. It's spring, but I'll show you. I can go along here and I can clip and create all kinds of shapes and things here. So it's kind of out of season, but it will get eaten. Anyways, it's really a beautiful and fun way to score. You can just clip and lift, and you can do this with flowers, trees, anything you want. I've even done Argyle sweater type patterns, and you can even go in like this and you can create lift and branches or petals, whatever you want to do. Going like that, and same thing. Sorry, I'm a lefty, so I'm struggling a little bit here. There we go. And once again, you can, like at an angle, clip like this and lift. Such a fun and cool reward after all the work of going through all the process of making bread to then make it beautiful is very rewarding and very fun. So there we go. Now we have Christmas trees. And I can show you, we're gonna do a score from the side here. We're gonna do a deep one on the side, and I can kind of turn this and show you. Let's get in there. All right, and I want it to really rise, and it's only gonna rise on one side, so I'm gonna kind of cut deeper. Put that in. Okay, I have it how I want it. And for this, like, let's do a crisscross pattern. I love this. There we go. So the first time you go through it, basically you're just getting your shape or your pattern that you want, and then you can go back through all these pieces that you miss. You can cut through because they're not going to open on their own, more than likely, if you don't cut through them all the way. Oops. There you go. And I think I'm gonna do a crisscross, kind of like a pie lattice. And you can also use your scissors for something like this if you want to get really detailed. But it's just fun, it doesn't take long, and it really just gives a beautiful result. So like I said, like here, see, this isn't going to be as pretty if I don't cut those open all the way. All right, here we go. I'm going to skip that one. I'm going to go back here. So now I can come back in with my scissors. I see these, it kind of gets messy and it's hard to clip that well, cut it well. So you can come back in here with your scissors. You can clip, and same thing, you could even get underneath and really get a cool lift on the edges. So you could get as detailed as you want. I'm gonna forego that today, but another fun thing I love to do is like do a star on the top. It doesn't take long, it's something fun, and just adds another element of interest to it. I don't have time for art these days or anything creative, so this is basically my only outlet. All right. Okay, that looks good to me. I'm happy with that, and we'll get these in the oven. All right, there we go. Pans are still very hot. I didn't put them back in the oven after I pulled out the other ones, but you can definitely do that if you want them to be extremely hot, but I know these are gonna rise just fine. All right, here we go, another 40 minutes, and we'll check on it. All right, here we go. Second round. I'm gonna go ahead and take the lids off. You can see the blueberry. And then the other blueberry. All right, and then lids are off. We're gonna do another 10 minutes in the oven and take them out. All right, here we go. Our next two loaves. Beautiful. And we're just gonna put these up onto the rack. And there we go. All right, our 4 loaves are baked, and now I'm just gonna cover these with a clean tea towel, and this will help keep them from drying out. I like to just make sure that I have all the edges covered like that, and I'll do the other 4 tomorrow. All right, it's day 2 of sourdough baking, and again, I'm gonna get my paper. All right. And as you can see how easy that is to pull this out of the 2-gallon bag. And then I can just let those air out. They're a little moist in there, so I'm gonna let them air dry and then I'll put them up for next time. All right. Have our cinnamon raisin, grabbing it, turning it over. I'm gonna do the same with this. Grab my flowers. Like I said, we're actually I don't need the rice flour. I'm just gonna go over it with the all-purpose. Add a little bit more. All right, and then we will shape. With this, you can see from overhead, it's kind of a wonky shape, so it doesn't matter. It's going to bake the same. If you want to fix it, you can just kind of tuck it in however you want to just give it a little more symmetry. Let's see. I'll just do a big crisscross with this one. And these are straight from the fridge, so they're a little stiffer, which if you're going for detail scoring, now is a great time to do that. Oops. Okay. I think it's time for a new blade in this thing. Like I said, cut through it, and even see the raisins. I'm just cutting through that so that I get down there. So with this, I'm just going to do a quick pattern here. And these will just open up in the oven. All right, and then my next one, same thing. It's a little wonky in its shape. So I'm gonna go ahead and, I think I'm gonna do like a swirl pattern with this one. So go around, and I'll come back through and clean it up. So what I do is I go back through, I'm going deeper with the blade, cut through that. Once again, trying to get around those raisins. They get in the way. All right, and then I can do like a wheat stock or something like that. Very simple. And on the same other side, I'll do the exact same thing. And what you want is this for this. Sometimes you can't control what it does in the oven, but this looks like this is gonna split wide open in the oven, which I don't really want. This one is probably gonna hold its shape because it's not cut through all the way. So I went too deep with that. So something I can do to kind of help is just to go underneath this score right here, the deep one, and just ensure that they're gonna open up even more than this, hopefully. And I'm gonna go under here like that. And that's just gonna provide more oven spring once the heat hits it. All right, they're gonna go in the oven. Go. That'll be great. These are gonna go in. I don't worry too much about the paper. I really don't want, I don't really want a lot sticking out the edge because it's a gas oven, I don't want it to catch on fire, so I just kind of fold it into itself and stick it in there. Here we go. 40 minutes and we'll take the lids off. All right, here's one. Here's the other one. And these look pretty dark. They have pretty good color. I'm just gonna keep them in probably 3 more minutes and then take them out. All right, I'm gonna get these lids off here. Bread comes out. All right, and I was just commenting to my husband, I don't know why these are so dark compared to the others. And then I looked at the oven. So I'd asked him to turn it on bake at 425, which he did. But I usually just hit convection bake. And so it does slow it down a little bit as far as the browning. So it's at 425. That's why they brown so much quicker. So good to know. And then I'm gonna go ahead and pull these out. Once again, I don't want the bottoms to burn. Have our next two coming up. I'm going to pull the next 2 loaves from the fridge. And before I do that, I'm just gonna put the lid back on these pans. They're very hot. This can help retain the heat. And I could put them back in the oven or I can leave them like this. It's just gonna be a minute for me to score the next loaf. So I'm just gonna leave them, put the loaves in and put them back in. All right, here we go, the last 2 loaves from the fridge. All right. This one's in the bag, so I'm just gonna tear that open and discard it. We have the chocolate chip, as you can see. Flip it out. I got some chunks of the rice flour, which I'm just gonna work in. I'm not worried about it. All right, let's move on to the next one. And this one's in Ziploc bag. As you can see the condensation. I'm just gonna allow these to air dry and I'll reuse them next time. And there we go. There's more golden and regular raisin with pecan. All right, and this is my favorite shape of Banneton basket. It gives such a beautiful loaf. All right, and with this, I think I'll try a swirl again. So I'm just gonna cut this. And I'm gonna go over it one more time deeply. And like I said, it's straight from the fridge, so it's pretty stiff and a little bit harder to work with here, but it gives a better result. Let's see, and I haven't thought through what I'm gonna do here. So let's just do 3 little wheat stalks. All right, we can have a couple more little ones coming out, and then do the other side, same thing. And I'm actually cutting a little deeper than I should. As you can see, it's starting to open and I don't really want it to do that. All right, and then once again, see here where it's still together. I want to really cut that deep so it opens. It gives me a good rise, and you can get pretty deep with this, and it's not overproof, so it's not deflating. Sometimes if you'll cut into a loaf and it kind of just sinks down like you deflated a balloon, it's because it's overproofed and you've disrupted those air bubbles and it's all escaping. So it's not doing that. That's good. It's just right. So I can get in there deeper and do more scoring without affecting the rise. So there's one. All right, and here's our next one. Just gonna do, once again, getting in there. All right, and with this, I think we'll go ahead and do the wheat this one as well, just for fun. And I've got a little excess here. I can either brush it off, I can just do that, or just leave it and go back over. Either way is fine. And I'll add in a couple little extra. There we go. All right, just gonna add in a couple more little things like that. And see how this is kind of pulling away already? I'm just gonna help it out a little bit more to open in the oven. You can go along the edges like this and give it more encouragement to open even deeper. So we're gonna get these in the oven. Go. Let it out away. Here we go. All right, because this oven is a little bit hotter, I'm gonna go ahead and do 35 minutes instead of 40, and we'll check it then. There we go. That looks great. We're gonna do that for 10 minutes. There. And same thing. All right, here are the last two. It. I'm going to go ahead and cut the oven off and then see down the wire rack. And there we go. All right, we're gonna cut this open and take a look. All right, so as you can see, the raisins and the pecans are evenly distributed throughout, and this is awesome for toast, just with butter, anything else you want to put it with. This is still a little warm and you shouldn't cut it generally. If it is warm, it's best the next day, but I just wanted you to get a look at the interior. All right, I'm going to cut open the chocolate chip. There we go. As you can see, it's fairly evenly distributed. It's kind of hit and miss, but this is so good. It's delicious. It's great with butter, or my kids love to do peanut butter or banana and peanut butter, whatever you want. It's amazing. All right, and here's our blueberry. And this is amazing. All right, here you go. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. I'd love to answer anything that you have, any questions you have for me. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope it was helpful.